And welcome. You see there is a recording going on, and we'll get to that kind of messages soon. But first, let me welcome you all to this workshop of the Fair Impact Project. It is a workshop dedicated to representatives of repositories and data service providers. So it's good to see you all. And I'm very glad that I can welcome you on behalf of all the partners in the project, but specifically the colleagues who co-organized this session today. My colleague Luc at DANS, my colleague Rita from Trust IT. There are more Fair Impact colleagues in the room, so I'm sure there will be lots of people willing to answer any questions. You can put them in the chat, and we will have some time, of course, for questions at the end of the session. But for now, let's get started and tell you a bit about why we have this meeting at all. Like I said, the session is being recorded, and afterwards the record will be made available, as will be the slides. So you have time at the end to read things back. A bit about the project, because we start with the introductions. I'll introduce the project to some extent, and then Luc will take over and allow you to introduce yourself. Then we will talk about what the support program that we offer will consist of, what we can provide as a project team, and what we expect from the participants in that. And we'll have a timeline and so on. But first, let's do the introductions. Fair Impact is a so-called Horizon Infra project. It is funded by the European Commission. And the bread and butter of what we do is to expand fair solutions in Europe. Fair is a lovely buzzword, if you don't mind me saying so. And the challenge is to turn it from a buzzword into something that works and that does lead to more fair data and research output in general. We had a more or less forerunner project Fair's Fair, so similar activities to some extent, and also a couple of the same project partners we had then. This time, in this coordination and support action, we have actually 28 partners and affiliate entities from 10 EU member states, and fortunately also the collaboration with the UK partners. We started last summer. We just submitted our first year reporting. I will not talk about that, but move on to what we are going to do now, which is with a good sample of all these consortium members, provide support to different stakeholder groups on their work to become even more fair, or to help others to produce more fair research output. You will probably recognize a couple of the logos you see here from various countries and types of colleagues and partners. We have what we call use case partners. They are very domain experienced, focusing on a domain. And the idea behind that is that what they do in the area of fair in their domain might be translatable to other domains with the help of the project and project partners. So that's us in a nutshell. We aim, like I said, to enable fairness, to really realize a fair open science cloud by supporting the implementation of all kinds of fair enabling practices across different communities, across different levels, the institutional level, national levels, European level at large, different kinds of research outputs. Of course, by identifying what is going on. So we have other initiatives where we take stock of what other projects and initiatives in the fair and open ecosystem do, what can be usable and reusable for others in terms of policies or technical specifications. We try to translate what works in some domains for other domains, and support also organizations in taking up those translations. And all in all, we focus on the implementation, getting away from the buzzword, as I said. On to you. Who are you? And my colleague Luc will talk you through some questions and statements. The link to this Slido doc when the code will be put in the chat. I'll stop sharing my screen so we can move to Rita for screen sharing the Slido questions.
Thanks, Marjan. Yeah, as Marjan said, we're very much interested in hearing about you, who you are, what your background is, and also what you're hoping to get out of this support program. And we prepared a interactive presentation in Slido for this, which Rita is now sharing with you. So if you can all go to slido.com and enter the following code, then we can move on to the questions. So I think we can, so Mike also put the information in the chat. So if you can, I think we can move to the first question. So, and the first question is, what kind of organization do you represent? Are you representing a data repository, a registry, or another data service? So let's see the answers dropping in. 17 answers already. We are with 41 participants, so I'm going to wait a little bit more to see how the numbers will play out here.
In fact, we are halfway of the...
So
Okay.
we see about 60% representing data repositories, but we're also with a diverse group, also with a large share of other data services and a couple of registries. So that's nice. So the next question is on where you're currently based. So if we can move to the next question, that is, what country are you based? So it's a nice long list of different countries from Europe, but also from beyond. So that's great to see this diversity in the people in the audience here. So the call is open to EU member states and affiliated countries. So that's that includes I think everyone here in the audience. So that's great. So to go into a little bit more detail, the next country is on the community or the communities that you serve. So who are the users of the services that you provide in your institutes? Oh, I'm sorry, Rita. Can we? I think we've skipped the question on what communities do you serve? That's the one that is. Oh, that's one. Okay, then we just move to the next one, Rita. That's okay. So the next question is FAIR explicitly part of your organization's policy or mission? And here we see that for the majority, the FAIR is already explicitly part of their organization policy, but also a substantial number of people here in the room where this is not yet the case. So we also have a specific part in this program dedicated on policy development. So that's also something that is covered in the support program. So the next question is, how knowledgeable are you already with how much experience you already have with FAIR, ranging from never heard of it to whether you're familiar with it or that you're already an active contributor, for example, to the EOSC. And judging the answers that we got to the previous questions, this may not be so surprising. We already see that you already are familiar with the concept and are already also engaged with the concept. For me personally, when I thought that I actually had a good understanding of what the concept was, but switching towards actually putting it to practice, turns out that I was not so knowledgeable about these practices, at least not as much as I thought. So this is also, even if you think you're familiar with the concept, maybe I think there's still much to gain by attending our program. So if we move to the next question, and this is a more open-ended question. So in an ideal world, which fair-related differences will your community notice in a year from now? So what would you in an ideal would be working towards? I see community endorsed semantic resources, reproducibility and transparency in data and conclusions, also a really relevant one. Increased awareness, better interoperability, greater machine interoperability, accessible metadata standards for sensitive data, also a very relevant one. Well, the good news is that I think the far majority of the topics that you're bringing up here are actually also things that we have prepared for in the support program. So I think this is, judging from your answers, there can be a very good match between the audience and the support program. Thanks for all your answers, and I'll hand over back to Marjan.
Thank you, Luc. Thank you, Rita. Maybe before we move on to more information on the support call, a question to Luc, because there was a question in the chat window, what your idea of fair activities would be. And Mike already gave an answer, but maybe Luc, you do have an answer to that. Suggestions for fair activities? I mean, we asked about it, so yeah.
I think fair, it's very much a mixed bag, of course. So it can be activities where you focused on one of the FAIR principles to enhance, to help maybe the users of your repository to make their data sets more, to help them to set up the how to organize their metadata. But it can also be on the level of the repository. What can you as a repository, for example, do to make sure that the data in your repository can also be found and by other portals, for example, at the level of the European Open Science Cloud. But these are just a couple of examples. It can also, within the support program, we also go beyond the strict formulation of the FAIR principles, and we'll also, for example, be targeting community engagement. So that's another a more broader interpretation of the concept of findability and accessibility. How do you promote the use of your data repository amongst your target audience? So I think Mike actually summarized it very well. It's very broadly in anything related to stimulate fair research outputs.
Thank you for that. Okay, about the support activities. So as a project, well, to be honest, the money that we got, the funding that we have, is basically taxpayers' money. And I think a very good aspect of it in this project is part of that money is meant to support others. Sometimes one with real funding, more often with hours and expertise. And that's what we are doing in the various support activities in Fair Impact. We have in total 3 types of support. We call them support routes. Route 1, that's what we're talking about today. Today is an example. Through dedicated guidance on a topic, but also through one-to-one support of participants in the support call, we help you, and together we spend this tax money, you could say, for the greater good of the FAIR and EOSC ecosystem. Route 2, we had a call earlier this year, which is closed now, where participants really focus and test specific tools and approaches and solutions. A third route is public to everyone. It's a series of FAIR implementation workshops. I have an announcement for you about that later on in this presentation. But today we focus on Route 1 examples with an open call for support. We will have more over the life of the project. And in this call, we address 3 types of stakeholders: national level initiatives, research performing organizations like universities, and repositories and data services today. My colleagues gave presentations last Friday, specifically on behalf of national level initiatives, yesterday on the research performing organizations, and today the focus is on repositories and data service providers. So this is a pretty broad picture of what we do, and I'll zoom in gradually in the actual support offer. This is a visualization of what such a support program entails. It is on the website as well. You will find it in the slides later on. So don't bother to read all the small print in it if you don't have the time or the screen is too small for you now. I'll talk you briefly through the steps we have in the project and in the program. So first, what is not in the image is that we will open a call and you can apply for this support. We will evaluate the applications and select, of course, some partners. We'll let everyone know. And with the participants, we will go through these 7 steps. First is basically for them, for you perhaps, to reflect on what drives you to become more FAIR enabling. Why do you want this? Why is it relevant for your organization and for you? Where are you now in that area of enabling FAIR, supporting FAIR, providing FAIR support yourself? So that is the second step, assess your current capabilities. Where do you stand and where do you want to go? We will introduce you to a set of tools from other European projects mainly, tools in the area of policy, technique, very diverse, and the invitation to the participant is to select 1 or 2 of these resources that are attractive, to explore them and see how you can implement them in your organization. So there is a step to really draft and implement an action plan to implement that resource or resources in your organization. We will help you with that. You will also help one another, because a couple of the working sessions we will have in the form of online workshops will be to network, to engage with the other participants in the same call. Like Luc mentioned, we will also focus on engagement, how to help your colleagues to join you in exploring this new stuff and to implement it, but also how to reach out to your community. For that, another plan, the engagement plan strategy will be developed, or you will develop it. I should be very explicit. Again, we help you. We will have some review options, and in the end, again, it's networking, sharing experiences, and some interviews at the end of the project, the trajectory. And the impacts will lead to what we call FAIR implementation stories, where you participants can share the lessons you learned, the things that went well, that were indeed useful for your organization, or that turned out to be perhaps harder or not relevant, to share that kind of information with others. And hopefully together we will increase the level of fairness in this, in the area of repositories and data services. So this is the step plan. It's based on, like the slide said, the FAIR implementation framework, which is a framework of this process, but also the set of resources we promote and will present to you. And it is also the work that we do, the information we provide, the expertise we hope to contribute where you need it. And we is the team of FAIR Impact. It will be practical advice. We will do a lot in online workshops, but we'll also provide one-on-one support. For this task, we will work with mentor pairs. So a small set of participants will have a duo of project members to guide them through the process, to ask questions to, and stuff like that. So it's a mixture of group guidance and one-to-one support, especially on the self-assessments and helping you to develop the plan and the strategy, and of course to start carrying it out. By now, I've spoken about resources, tools, and techniques, and that was very unspecific. So this slide gives you perhaps more of an idea what kind of resources are in this framework. We started out with a very long list. We tuned the list to what seems relevant for repositories and service providers. And of course, the colleagues in the other support calls made a somewhat different selection. And for this group we have today in the room, we have tools we think are useful. For instance, when it comes to your repository policy, we saw from the poll that not everyone has FAIR in their policy. Now, that by itself is perhaps not your goal, but maybe you want to reconsider your repository policy or mission in terms of the FAIR developments or the open science developments. There are tools for that. You might be interested in making objects in the repository more fair. There are tools for that, and so on, for measuring fairness of the data sets. Certification of a repository is relevant in this aspect, and the perhaps higher, more abstract goal of EOSC readiness can be a topic. So a large part of the introductory sessions in the call will be for you to find out what you really want to work on. From the set of the resources that we provide you with, that we present, participants choose and plan what they want to implement at home. And we also consider that because this ranges from policy to, let's say, the back office technique of the repository, it might be useful for you to apply as a team of 2 to 3 persons. So that's up for you, of course, to decide. And another remark about the call is that we think it is suitable for organizations who are just getting started with supporting the FAIR principles. Well, looking at the polling output, many of you are not starters, so maybe we should up it a bit. But it's certainly not focusing on those who already know a lot or are very advanced. That will be part of the review process later on for us. Similar to the steps that we take in this process, we have a timeline. The actual work will start in January. As you can see, in January, February, we will have a couple of online workshops to really kickstart things and to help you thinking and brainstorming and what have you. The actual dates of these meetings will be set with a date picker later on when we know the group of participants. So for now, it's just the month. After February, there will be a period for participants to work together on fleshing out the plans and starting to work. We will focus in April on developing the engagement strategy. And June and July, there the focus will be on the peer knowledge exchange, so the networking aspect, learning from one another, and also having time over summer to really do some work before we meet for the final time in September. The actual work, at least for the participants, will be in between the workshops, clearly. So time to work independently on self-assessments, to draft the plans, to work on the plans, flesh them out. You see the footnote that in this period, we will provide with the mentor teams some support. We will have an email address open and when there are questions that are more relevant for a larger group, we can set up Zoom support. So that's roughly how things will work. And we will keep ourselves and you probably occupied for quite some time. What we expect of participants? Well, of course, that you participate in all the required workshops and meetings. They will all be held virtually. There will be, like I said, homework. It sounds very school marmish, but okay, bear with me there. This is not a set of webinars. It's really meant to do work and to make progress that is visible to your colleagues and your community. To act on the plan, to act on the engagement plan, to consent to participate in an exit interview that will be the basis for this implementation story. And at some point after the trajectory, let's say half a year later, perhaps a bit longer, we will contact you to find out how things have gone since. So we hope to be able to stay in touch with the participants and also broaden our network. We estimate that the time needed from participants is around 50 to 60 hours. When you are very ambitious and you want to work with a lot of resources, it will definitely be more. That's your risk or chance in a way. But this is for now what we consider the effort required. Because of the formal regulations concerning money, there is this requirement that applicants must reside and or work in an EU country or an associated country for the duration, well, of the grant, not necessarily, but of the process. So that's a strict requirement. The call is open to individuals, groups, and organizations from public and private research. Oh, I'm sorry, this is not quite right. So you should focus, please, on the bold side. So from public and private repositories and data service providers. That is what we focus on with this call. And you can apply as an individual, but like I said, you're very welcome to have at most 2 colleagues join you where you can complement the expertise and benefit the most from it. Rita, this is my cue to hand over to you because you know about the formal application process on the platform.
Yes, exactly. So after all these introductions from my colleagues, you may wonder, okay, I'm interested, I want to apply. How can I do it?
I don't
So
hear you yet.
Sorry? Can you hear me now?
Thank you.
Okay, sorry. So after this introduction, which was provided by my colleagues, you may be thinking now, okay, I understood, I'm interested, how can I apply? So, and that's why I'm going to focus now on now. So in order to send your application, we have a Fair Impact Grants platform where you can do that. And how do you access? So first, the first step, you need to log in the Fair Impact website. If you have an account, you just log in. If you don't have, you'll have to create one. So as soon as you are logged in within the Fair Impact website, then you can go to the Open Call official page and then click on, on the profile you identify yourself with. So in this case, this event is all about for data repositories and other data services. So you click on that button and then you will be taken into the Grants Fair Impact platform, which is where you will send your application. If you could go to the next slide, Marian. When you are on the Grants platform, you'll see the open calls that are open, so which will be the ones with the ring boxes. In this case, you should click on the one with the number 4, which is called Repositories and Data Service Providers. That's where you need to click. You just click on Apply Now. When you click on Apply Now, we'll access your application form. Next slide, please, Marian. Then you are there, you can start replying to the questions we have there. You may ask, do I need to fill all of them at once? No, you don't. So you can start replying to your application, you can save as a draft, come back later, keep filling in, improving your replies and so on. And then when you are happy, with your replies. You don't need to click on draft anymore to save it. You just need to click on the button. You'll find at the bottom, which is the submit one. So we will inform you in a few moments what is the deadline to send your application. So you can come here as many times as you want. The important thing is you click submit when you are happy before the deadline that my colleague Marian will let you know later on. And then you may think, who is going to evaluate your application? It's a very fair question. So the application will be evaluated by the fair impact experts, and not only one, not two, but three. So it will, and the thing is, the three evaluators that we allocate to you, they will not share the information between them. So each one will do their application without any influence on the other's opinion. Okay, so at the end, and then you have an overall score, and we'll see which application had a better score from all the applications we received so far. And the thing is, when we have updates on this, you will receive notifications from the platform saying we received your application, we are evaluating our application, and your evaluation is concluded, and we will contact you informing if you were one of the lucky ones, or maybe you have to try for the next opportunity we'll have. Next slides, please, Marian. And now you may think, okay, I would like to understand better the profile of the applicants you would like to receive. For this part, I'll pass the word to Marian.
Rita, and this part is specific for today's session and for you, repositories data service providers. We like to see a link to the repository or the registry or the service that you represent. So what are we talking about? For at most 3 team members of your organization, we'd like to know where the main area expertise is. So that could be policy, that could be regarding the target community because of the engagement aspect, or it could be the technological back end of your service. We have a drop-down list with a couple of examples of fair service provisioning aspects, and we ask you to pick the level that best fits your organization. We assume there are some challenges or maybe even obstacles that you experience when you make your service more fair enabling, and we are interested in knowing which challenges or obstacles that are. There's no need to write a lot of prose, but it is important to see where you're coming from. And we're interested to know how you will ensure that what you do in this process and what you learn, how you will share that with peers in your organization and your service. So with the aim of spreading the word and getting even more effect of the information. What is important in fair impact is that we prioritize the support for organizations and groups and or individuals in countries or academic domains that are currently less advanced in terms of their fair enabling capacity. It's quite a mouthful, but the idea is we're not supporting the Matthew effect, where those that already have a lot of facilities and opportunities also benefit the most from these support projects. So that's a choice we make in the review stage that Rita described. So just trying to manage some expectations here perhaps, or also to reassure you that when you do come from a domain or a country which is under averagely active, you might have a somewhat bigger chance than some others. So for the information we prepared for you now, there's room for questions, but before I open the floor for questions, there is this announcement of the first public fair implementation workshop. We will have a series between October and December, so this is not formally related to the support program, but it is, again, transferring knowledge and information, so we hope you use the opportunity. And soon the registration option, because registration is mandatory, that option will be available from our website. So on to questions. We have quite some time for your questions. Let me check the chats, and maybe Maaike also had some questions in the public notes-taking documents. So
I do, and I have a first one maybe for Luc or for anyone who would like to take it, which refers back to the Slido questions we had earlier. If there can be a bit more explained about what we mean by being an active supporter of EOSC, and what the different where you are in FAIR options mean and how we see those levels.
So yeah, that's basically comes down to the very purpose of this project. So the project of Fair Impact is not only there to increase FAIR, but also to increase FAIR in such a way that there's harmonization across different initiatives in different countries, such that it can be linked together in a European open science cloud. So in the end, we're striving towards alignment between these initiatives and setting up certain standards such that our data repositories or services can also be connected or findable through the European Open Science Cloud. So I see there's a next question by Bora. I can also take that one. So Bora, you're asking about the relationship between the call that is presented here, which is on specifically tailored to repositories and service providers, and the one that was presented yesterday, which was for research performing organizations, and also whether the difference between the two support offers would relate to different levels of expertise with FAIR. Well, I don't think the distinction in the level of experience with FAIR is so much related to the different support offers that we offer here. You can enter both support offers regardless of whether you have a lot of experience with FAIR or you're just starting. But it is really about, we have different organizations and different levels who all have roles to play within the scientific landscape. And here we focus on three of these different stakeholder groups. So on one hand, the national level initiatives, on the other hand, the research performing organizations, on the other hand, the repositories and data server providers. So it's really about what kind of organization you are representing. So what is the role of your organization within this landscape? And we try to bring together these stakeholders in these three different groups. So it's not about the level of fairness, but it is on what role do you have within the scientific landscape. I hope that answers your question. If not, just speak out or put it in the chat.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to save everyone time. So, but I think it's, I understand your perspective. I think.
I cannot hear you, Bora, but maybe that's because I'll put. You put your answer on.
Can everyone hear me? Or
yeah, now I can.
Okay, I was just trying to save everyone time, but I understand what you mean in one sense, but because I work for a university that also hosts a repository, for me it's a bit both. So that's where my confusion is. But this is also something that maybe we can discuss via email, or just a question to clarify for now. Thank you.
Yes, that is a very specific situation. It is allowed to also apply for multiple of these support programs. It's not to say that you will be awarded or that you will be able to also participate in both programs, but it is something that we can also discuss maybe later on, whether which support program is more suited for you. And I think that it's very much related to what your specific plans and ambitions are for your support program. So we provide a process, this 7-step process, but the content of the process is really up to you. So you select what kind of tools you want to focus on to adopt, and depending on those decisions, on how you formulate that, one support offer might be more suited over the other.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Luc. I see some comment on this topic also from our colleague Joy from the Digital Curation Center, and project member. The differences can be subtle. We realized that when we organized 3 different support processes, like Luc said, you may choose yourself. You can apply for more than one offer, and then we will try to make in the evaluation process, we will try to make a choice for you based on the information that you provide. So that's a bit, and feel free to contact us, and I think the email address is also in the chat already. So if you want to know more and or discuss things. Going back to other questions, I saw a question from Stephanie, I think in the chat. Will the support program for repositories also include sharing expertise on technical aspects of implementing fair implementation actions? That is a tricky one, because we are not quite sure to what extent that could go. So this is also about managing expectations, and it's a fair question. It might, I think we will certainly try to provide expertise. On the other hand, we will not have the technical people really to sit to a repository developer and in agile working and go through the code. So of course there's a long way between those extremes, just talking about it and sitting together. But I think we are not so much the project that's able to really provide technical support on that. It will be more on the consultancy probably than being there as a fellow developer. I hope that helps. I see a thumbs up, Stephanie. Okay, very good. A question from Noemi, wondering on the one-on-one support. Yeah. We will have to find out for ourselves. So together with the participants, in all honesty, what we will do up front, so we know how many participants there are, or perhaps participant small teams. We know how many people we have in the support team, so it will not be the full project team of 28 partners, but a selection from those. What we now expect is the initiative is with us to organize the workshops. We will make sure that each participant knows who is their support duo for questions. And then we will just see what kinds of questions will come up and try to answer them as best as we can. We will organize a kind of intervision amongst these support teams so that we'll know that one participant asked a certain question, we have an answer also for others. That could lead to an extra online session just to share the knowledge we gathered in the meantime. But we will not initiate the one-on-one contact. That will be basically the participants, we now think. So it's hard to say something about the frequency. And the experts, that's our colleagues and us. I hope that answers Noemi's question. And feel free to open up your microphone and speak up when you want to continue the conversation. Then there is a question from Catherine in the chat. If you have received support on the first open call, are you still eligible to apply for this and subsequent calls? Yes, you are. We do keep track of it, of course, in the administration. And this is a question where I would like to use Joy's expertise. What we formally say about this, it is in our frequently asked questions, but I must confess I don't know the answer by heart. Joy, Does it
Yeah.
have any impact on someone's chances?
Well, the key thing for us is really to try and support as many people and organizations as possible. So feel free to apply to any or all of the calls. It obviously depends on how many people apply to each of the calls. For each of the 3 support programs here, we're looking at about 15 successful applicants joining each of the support programs. We have a second running of the support program coming up in 2024 later on in the year. So it's a complicated answer. The answer is yes, we will consider supporting you for more than one. But obviously we're trying to get a good spread. So it would really be something that we take up in the evaluation and just try and make sure we're getting a good spread. But please do apply to anything that you think looks useful. And on the plus side, we've tried to keep the application process quite low burden for the applicants, so it shouldn't be a huge amount of effort for you to apply anyway. But if you want any further information, just get in touch with us afterwards and we can have a discussion.
Thank you, Joy. It's very helpful because you organized, coordinated that first call. So good to have you in the room. Are there more questions? If not, we have a request to you. We have the public note-taking document, and at the bottom of that, and the bottom is deep down because many notes have been taken. Thank you, Micah and colleagues. We have an option, an invitation basically to you to share any thoughts you have about the workshop or what you've learned so far about the support program, to give us feedback, things that we should make clearer or we should focus on or whatever. So you're very welcome in the next, let's say, 2-3 minutes to simply put things in there that you would want to share with us. We're very welcome and open for all kinds of comments. And in the meantime, I will share my screen and show you the timeline because we have not shared that with you. I am sharing the wrong screen now, I think. So let's share a better one. So here are the dates regarding the open call, the part in particular that Rita spoke about. Tomorrow we'll celebrate the launch. You have 2 months to apply, so that also means there's time enough to ask us questions and perhaps advice. We're happy to think along with you. In November, we will evaluate the applications, 3 reviewers per application, and we will notify the applicants mid of December. And we start in January with the lucky ones. And the slide on the next workshop, yes, I'll show that. Oh. It's always very iffy to stay silent during an online meeting. It's awkward. But I'm sure that Micah will warn me when too many people are leaving the room. Okay, just a quick comment on the feedback that is in the document so far. Thank you for that to start with. I'm glad it was clear and you had answers to questions. And I agree, it would have been nice if we had announced it a bit earlier. That's basically due to the summer holiday season, unfortunately, but you are right. That would have been good. I hope that the long term to apply for the call compensates it a little bit. So you do have time to consider and reconsider and contact us if you want. We will share the link to the recording if you want to have another look at it and perhaps share it with colleagues. More knowledge on the experts. Yes, I agree. That is a tricky thing also for us because it's, in all honesty, a bit of chicken and egg at the moment. So we know about resources and we know about our own expertise. I can tell you that not all people in the team are familiar with all the resources. So we will do a bit of a puzzle who will actually provide on which resources in particular. And that again also depends to some extent on the self-assessments that the participants make. There might be more need for some kinds of tools than for other kinds of tools. So you will understand that it's a bit of a balance. And that is also part of why we do not have an explicit list of the exact colleagues who will do what. So I hope that makes sense. If this triggers more questions, you're very welcome to answer them. Otherwise, with a view on time, I would say thank you very much for being here. And I hope to see many of you in the applications actually, or before when you reach out with questions. Thank you all very much. Have a good afternoon. Have a good time and see you on the fair journey.
Thank you.